Evening. Been a bit of a funny day today, so anybody who joins me is in for a bit of a treat, I think. I just hope this evening goes a little bit better than the day has. Right. Okay. Hi, Anne. Hi, babes. You alright, Mel? Hi, Tilly. Hi, Carol. Oh, hello, Mark. Fancy meeting you here, dear. Who knew? Your computer's not working. Oh, that's good. You're going to have a fun evening then, aren't you? Right, what I'm seeing on the screen is really lagging behind what I'm doing, so this could prove very interesting indeed. Hi, Sarah. Okay. Right, I don't know if you've seen, but I've just posted up in the group about our next project, which I had earlier and have lost, which is going to be this small, actually I'm just going to get these out of the way, this small square mini book. It's about 8 inches square. It has 4 internal pages, a lot of tags and all sorts of things, and this is what we're going to start next Wednesday, which is the 13th. Yeah, Wednesday the 13th of November, about 7:30ish. I know Leslie will like that because I know for sure it's not the 16th. No, it's not the 16th, the 13th. Don't confuse me. It's been a bad enough day. I know Leslie will be pleased because it's not going to be flower arranging day. So that's why I've deliberately done it with a week to go. So what I'll do when we've finished is I will pop up the resources list this evening so that you can start gathering your supplies if that's what you want to do. I do still have a few kits left. I've used some really gorgeous papers by one of my favourite suppliers actually. It's a Ukrainian company called Stamperia, and I sell quite a lot of their stuff in the shop, but this is particularly pretty and it's called Peaches and Cream. So I've used the 12 by 12 papers. I've used a pack of ephemera die cuts and also some frames like this frame here as well in this book. But this is what we're going to be starting next Wednesday. It's going to take us a few weeks to get it done, I reckon. A few sessions anyway, but we'll take it bit by bit, and we're going to have a shaker front cover as well because I really like shaker covers. Hello, Natalie. Hi, Wendy. Have I missed anybody else off that I haven't said hello to that I should have done? Let's have a look. Oh, hello, Carol. Right, okay, so what are we going to do this evening? This evening we are going to make a loaded pocket, which is an incredibly simple little book to do. Makes a really great Christmas present. I always joke that I don't make cards. I'm hopeless. But to be honest with you, this could be a card. It's as near as you're going to get from me. Anyway, it is so simple. I've actually got a sample here that I made just to show you the base of what we're going to be making tonight, and it is very simply a little folder, for want of a better description, with 2 pockets in it. And that is all it is, and that's what we're going to do. So it's not going to take long. The decorating, I'll go through that with you as well, bit by bit. But the nice thing about a loaded pocket is that we can fill it with all sorts of good things. So there is a little accordion mini book here, which we'll make together. There's all sorts of tags. I'll show you how to make some tags if you haven't got any of these ready-made ones. in the papers that I've used, there was some little tag shapes, so I've cut those out and made a little tiny mini book with them. But I'm really keen to see what papers you're going to use. I've stopped calling it a Christmas mini book because I know that loads of you won't do Christmas, and that seems a bit daft, really. So, right, have you all got your tutorials in front of you? I printed mine out and I've put them somewhere safe, which means I'll never find them again. Oh, hang on, just up here. So I'm just going to get mine out so that I can talk you through the sizes and we can get going. So I'll just pass one to Mark, because what Mark's going to do this evening, same as usual, is he will go through all of the sizes with you. So as I'm speaking them, you might make one for your bestie Melanie. She's a lucky girl. I've heard she's amazing. We'll get started. So if you got the tutorial, it's actually in the group already, so you can print that out and use it at your leisure. Now, I've said this is going to take about 8 sheets of an A4 card. It's not. It's only going to take about 4, but you know, tags. So let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do is actually make the covers of our book with this little hinge in between. So what I want you to do is I want you to get 4 sheets of your A4 card. Now, if you have purchased, yeah, I said that right, this kit from me, you're going to have exactly the same card as I'm using in your kit. One thing to be aware of is that the craft card is pretty much double-sided. There's actually 2 colours of craft card in there, so do bear that in mind when you're gluing which one which side you want to use. I'm going to use this sort of like flatter side out. I mean, that's nice, but it's a bit light really, so I'm going to use the darker one. So for this bit, you're going to need 4 pieces of craft card, or white card, or black card, whatever colour card you're going to use, and you're going to need your trimmer. Now, keep all of your bits until you've finished, because to get the best efficiency out of the card, we can actually cut some bits out of our spare bits. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to cut 2 pieces of card at 7 inches by 7 inches. Now, I will say it's a whole lot better if you can cut it just under 7 inches. So say 6 7/8 of an inch, for example. And this will become clear why. The actual finished product is 7 inches square, but just trust me on this. So this piece, even though it could be 7 inches square, is actually 6 7/8 inches square. And you're going to need 2 of those. So 2 that are 7 inches by 7 inches, or almost. Okay. Oh, I didn't cut that very well. Now, we're not going to be doing any scoring on those at all, so they're ready to go, so we can put those to one side. Then I want you to cut 2 more, and I want you to cut them at 8 by 7.5 inches. Now, this does need to be a bit more exact. So if you cut at 8 by 7.5 inches, and that's the same on both of them. Now, while we're here, we might just as well cut out our hinge. So out of the offcuts that we've got here, I want you to cut the hinge, which will be 2 3/4 by 7 inches. So out of one of the offcuts, I'm just going to cut that down to 7 inches, and then I'm going to cut this down at 2 3/4 inches. Now, you only need 1 of these, okay? So when you've done that, if you want to put your trimmer to one side, the next thing that we need to do is get out our scoreboard. we are not going to score the pieces that are 7 inches squared. Okay, we're going to leave those be. They don't need any score marks at all. So what we're going to take here are the pieces that are 7.5 by 8 inches. And I want you to put it so it's with the 8 inch at the top. So when I say to you that I want you to score on the 8 inch side, that means that the 8 inch side of your paper is butted up against the top of your scoreboard, okay? I have mentioned before as well that if you don't have a scoreboard, one of the things that you can do is use a ruler and one of those little ball embossing tools, you know, that have got the little balls on the end. And that does work quite well. Actually, it works remarkably well, as Mel Pickering found out when she made the well, if you can go back and actually have a look at the I forgot which paper, like Lost in Paradise, the graphic 45 Lost in Paradise little folio that she made. She actually didn't use a scoreboard for that, and it's quite remarkable, really. I do love it when somebody proves me right. Anyway, 8 inches at the top. I want you to score at 1/2 inch, and I want you to score at 7.5 inches. So what we've got here on our 8 inch pieces, we've got 2 score lines, leaving 1/2 inch at each edge. We're going to then flip it 90 degrees so that we are now going to score on our 7.5 inch side, and we are going to score at 1/2 inch on that. So what we've got now is a U-shaped score. That top line there, that has no scoring on it, so we actually only have 3 score lines on that. And I want you to do exactly the same on the other piece. So we've got our 8 inch piece along the top of our scoreboard, and we are going to score at 1/2 inch and at 7.5 inches. We're going to turn 90 degrees to score on our 7.5 inch side. That means that the 7.5 inches is at the top. And we're going to score at 1/2 inch. Brilliant. Put that to one side. While we're here, we're going to score our hinge. So I want you to put this hinge so that we are going to score on the 2 3/4 inch side. That means that it's the 2 3/4 at the top of our scoreboard. Okay, now what I want you to do here, because we've got several score lines to make, I want you to score at 1 inch. I want you to score at 1 1/4 inches. I want you to score at 1 1/2 inches. And the final line, you'll never guess where we're going to do it, is at 1 3/4 inches. This doesn't, I don't think this is going to show up very well, but if you can see, what we've got here is we've got 1 inch on either side, and then we have 4 score lines, which make 3 sort of like little tracks. Okay, you might be able to see it a bit better on that side. Okay. So that's all the scoring for the cover of our book. So we're going to put our scoreboard to one side for now. And we're going to get on and put our covers together. So we're going to start with these 2 pieces that were 8 by 7.5 inches that we have scored on 3 sides. And what I want you to do is I want you to get your scissors, and I want you to miter the corners of this page. I want you to snip up to where the score lines intersect. And then if you just turn the angle of your scissors slightly and then cut that away, this will all become clear. But I think you get a flatter edge than when you cut it straight across. And I proved this to Mel the other day as well, once again, proving that I'm right, which doesn't happen all that often, but it's nice when it does. So, snip up to your score line. Don't know if you can see that there. Just change the angle of your scissors slightly and chop off that bit there. So, we are mitering 2 corners only where the score lines intersect, okay? And I want you to do exactly the same on both pieces. So, we're going to snip up to where the score line is. change the angle of the scissors slightly, chop that away, and the same over here and again. Okay. Now, if you grab your hinge piece, which is this, you might be surprised that I'm not using any Tyvek. Now, the reason I'm not using any Tyvek, because this would be an ideal place to use it, is very simply because Tyvek either comes in black or white, certainly in the UK, or some bright green colour that won't do at all. So to use Tyvek on here, I'm going to have to paint it or ink it, and quite frankly I haven't got time for that right now. So I'm just going to do this book without the Tyvek. If you want to use Tyvek and paint it, then just put it on the inside bit, which for me is this lighter piece of card. You can sandwich it between two pieces of card, but the trouble that I found with that was that it was just too thick to score, and it was very, very clunky. So I've just decided just to, you know, not bother this time. So what I want you to do is mitre the corners on this, but we're going to do it slightly differently. What I want you to do is cut your mitre from the edge of the first score line down to the edge of the paper. This is not an exact science. You do not have to have it perfectly, so long as you are starting right at the edge of where that first score line is. Okay, and I want you to do that on every corner. So what you've got here is you've got the two mitered corners with those three tracks with the score lines on in between. And I want you to do that on all four. This will make sense in a minute. As you can see, that's not even slightly symmetrical. It really doesn't matter. Okay, so that's our cover cut out and mitered. The next thing I want you to do is take the pieces with the score lines that we've just mitered here, and I want you to fold and do it quite carefully. If you're using this cardstock of mine, I have to say it's not my usual supplier. No, they don't supply quite what I was looking for this one, and I'm not overly impressed by the quality of this card. It's a lovely card to work with, but if you're not careful, it'll crack. So I'm going to go a little bit carefully when I fold this, because I really don't want to have cracks on my edges. Okay, and then when you've done that, I want you to make sure that you've got a really good sharp crease, so do use your bone folder. Now, I'm hoping we're going to get most of this done tonight, because it is actually a really simple book to put together, but I do want to go over the decorating as well, certainly the base of it for those people who have bought the kit. But that means that I'm going to be making up a spare book tonight. So when it's completed, I'm going to put up a thread in the group, and if you would like to have this book that I'm making in time for Christmas, if you pop your name in there, we'll do a random name generator thingy. I'll give you all a number and we'll go to random.com and pick a winner for that. So if you want my version of what I'm making now, we'll do that. And I don't give my books away, so there you go. But that's open to anybody who wants to take part at all. We don't discriminate in this group. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure that my creases are really tight. And now you will see the reason why I mitre my corners at a funny angle. Is that now when these go together, that is going to sit much flatter as a corner than it would if we just cut it straight across, where you could have had an overlap and then a bit of a lump there. Because we're actually going to mat and cover these corners, it doesn't matter if it's not terribly pretty. So once we've done that, I want you to get the pieces that were essentially 7 inches squared, and I want you to make sure that they just slot inside like that. So it needs to slot inside those flaps, okay? So that fits rather nicely. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our glue, which I really should have filled up before I started. And I'm going to put glue all the way around the inside of my flaps. Now, I'm not in the habit of trying to sell people things. However, I have to tell you about these bottles. Mel and I went away a couple of weekends ago and we both made a folio, which I really should finish. It was not my design, it's actually one of my all-time favourite designers, who's a lady called Kathy King in America. We were making one of her folios, and well, we both made the folio. And I have to tell you that we used less than half of one of these bottles of glue between us. It will save you huge amounts of money. Just decanting your glue into that bottle. The glue that I use, I think Mark will put a link up for you. As you can see, it just sticks straight away. It's dead easy. But putting it in that bottle and decanting it, I've just noticed just how long my glue lasts. It's quite amazing. And did Mel say she was going? Oh, that's a pity, because you could have heard it from somebody else rather than me, just about how amazing these are. In fact, I do know there's quite a few people in the group who've already purchased these little bottles. They do come with these great stainless steel pins to keep in so that you don't get it all bunged up. I am desperately, oh, Mel's not here so I can say this, I am desperately trying to get Mel at the moment to make some stoppers for the bottles with like charms on, so you know you can have your letter of maybe your first letter of your first name or whatever. So if anybody in this group wants to harass her to do that, her business is called Safimel. That's SAFIMEL. So please do harass her, because I think she's far more likely to listen to you than me, and I really wanted to do it, so that would be perfect. Right, so what I've got now is I've got my enclosed page. So it's enclosed, she's going to kill me. It's enclosed on 3 sides and open on that one. So I'm going to just pop that down and let that glue, and I'm going to do exactly the same with the other one. So I'm just going to check that it fits, which it does. I'm going to put some glue on my flaps. Is Maggie here? No, good. That's okay. I can say putting glue on my flaps with impunity then. That's, or without impunity, that's good. Sarah, I'd be really interested to hear what you think about them, if they make a difference to you. Because it's all very well me saying it, but obviously I'm going to be biased, I know that. But I'm really, it would be great to hear what other people think about it as well. And then if I'm talking out of my hat, you can tell people, but I am so confident that I am not. Right, okay. Right, I'm just going to put that to dry. So, here's the one that I've just made. I've still got my hole here. And I have got here my hinge. So what I'm going to do, and bear in mind those of you who are using exactly the same card as me, I want this to flow. So the darker side of the card is going to be on the front of the book. I'm calling this the front where the flaps aren't, so the flaps are on the back. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slide this in here just to make sure that it fits, which it does perfectly. And I'm going to slide it up to the first score mark, okay? So I can see that that fits. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some glue on both sides of this hinge up to the score mark, and I'm going to do it on both sides of that hinge, because when we come to slot it into that pockety hole thing here of the page, we actually want it to close up completely. So I'm going to slip that up to the first score line, and I'm going to adhere that on both sides. Okay, and then I'm going to get the other one that I've just done, just check it fits. There we go, and I'm going to glue that in exactly the same way. That wasn't me, that was the glue bottle, if you heard that. So up to that first score line, plenty of glue, and we're going to enclose that. So that's going to slip inside there, slip it up to the first score line and close that down. So now all of that cover is enclosed. Okay, so I like to put something heavy on top of it whilst it's drying, so I'm just going to slip it under my mat for now. And whilst that's kind of gelling together, we are going to make our pockets. So if you'd like to get out your trimmer again, we are going to make our stacked pocket, and then we're going to cut 2 pieces. Now I think you should have enough of the cardstock that we've already used, but if you want to take one of your offcuts, we need to cut one piece that is 3.5 by 8 inches. So that's 3.5 by 8 inches. We're then going to cut a second piece, which is 2.5 by 8.5 inches I've written. That can't be right. No, it's not. I'll have to change the tutorial if you've already printed it out. It should be 2.5 by 8 inches. So 2.5 by 8 inches. Ignore that tutorial. I will change it and put it back up again. So it's 2.5 by 8 inches. Okay, and you can pop your trimmer to one side because I don't think we're going to need it for a bit. So I've got 2 pieces here. Next thing, grab your scoreboard, and we're going to make this larger one, which is the 8 by 3.5 inch piece, into a pocket. So the way that we're going to do that is we are going to score on the 8-inch side at 1/2 inch and at 7.5 inches. I want you to twist it 90 degrees, and I want you to score on the 3.5 inch side at 1/2 inch, just like the ones that we made earlier, except this is just going to be a pocket. So what I want you to do now is take the piece that is 2.5 by 8 inches, and I want you to score on the 8-inch side once again at 1/2 inch and at 7.5 inches. But this time, when you turn it 90 degrees and we're on the 2.5 inch side, I want you to score at 1 inch. So we've got a much wider score line there. Okay, you can put your scoreboard to one side. Right, how are we doing? Is everybody following? Right, oh, that's better. I can see better now. Just change the... Okay, is everybody all right? So on this one where we scored on 3 sides, once again, what I want you to do is I want you to mitre the corners. So if you go into it, cut up to the score line, twist your scissors slightly and chop it off there. So cut up to the intersecting score line, twist your scissors and cut it there. Okay. On this one, we're going to cut it slightly differently. So what I want you to do is, you can see here we've still got 3 intersecting score lines, but obviously we've got a much wider piece at the bottom because that is 1 inch. But what I want you to do is I want you to cut up to the intersecting score line on the 1 inch side. So you've got one bit here that is 1.5 inches and you've got one bit here that is 1 inch. So I want you to cut up to that intersecting score line on the 1 inch side, just like that, exactly like we've mitered before. Hi Janet. Hi Claire, don't you worry, that's absolutely fine. I'm popping by every now and again as well. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to mitre that corner in the same way. We're just going to chop off that there. So we'll see what we've got. Okay, I hope that makes sense to people. So I'm just going to cut down to that intersecting score line. And then I'm going to mitre that way. Okay. So I'm going to take this big bit first because this is the bottom pocket. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to carefully fold that pocket up like that. And I'm going to burnish those edges just to make sure that I've got a really good sharp crease. Craft card's quite an interesting medium to work with. It's not like other card, it's much rougher. The fibres in the paper are much rougher. It needs to be handled a little bit differently. Well, this one certainly does. But I suppose the benefit is that I think pretty certain it's recycled. So, hi Louise. What we're going to do now is we're going to actually just fold up those 2 tiny little flaps here. Now before we go the whole hog and burnish them, I just want to make sure that this pocket fits in. So I'm just going to slip this pocket, this bit, into there and just make sure that it lines up to the bottom of that score line that we made at 1 inch. And you know what, it does absolutely perfectly. I'm amazing. Well, I have amazed even myself because I can rarely get these to line up. So now I know that that's worked, miracle of miracles, especially after the day I've had. I'm just going to burnish that and just make sure I've got some good sharp creases. Okay. Right, now we're going to glue them onto our stacked pocket. So what we've got here is the pocket that we made earlier. If you want to just fold that over, that is actually as simple as it gets. That's our pocket, that's our book, pardon me. And what we want to do now is actually attach the stacked pocket. So I'm going to work with the flaps of my book upwards. So I'm going to take this bottom bit of pocket, really should have filled this up before I started, put some glue on the flaps there. And I'm going to attach this to the bottom of my book, absolutely flush, corner to corner, side to side, and it should fit absolutely exactly. And I'm just going to make sure that that sticks down really, really well. Okay. Now I'm going to attach the other part of my pocket, and the only place that I need to put some glue is on these flaps here. Okay, just there and there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slip that bit of the pocket inside there, up to the point of the score line at 1 inch. Ooh, glued that to itself. And I am going to glue that down. Okay, that is the book done. So I want that to dry really, really well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop that underneath my board, and we're going to look at decoration and the sorts of things that we can put in our loaded pocket. Now, here's one I made earlier. In my pocket, like I said, I've got this tiny little accordion mini album that you could put, you know, sayings in or little photos or whatever, and we're going to make one of those. I have got, now these papers that I've used, the Stamperia traditional Christmas 8x8 papers, come with all sorts of wonderful cut aparts in them, and like I said, I've used some of the cut aparts here. I've just made a tiny little tag book, which I've just put a little binder ring on. I've got some of these little sort of like pocket life type cards. I've used some of my luggage tags to make some Christmas tags and cut little bits out and added them on foam pads. Another cute thing to put, I think, in loaded pockets are money envelopes. So here I've got, I've just put in one of the little cards into the envelope. I've cut out, you know, some of the bits that I like, and the way that I made the closure on this was it's actually on a little tiny bit of thin chipboard, so that when I want to close this, I just have to flip that behind. In your kit, if you've had this kit off me, you've got some ready cut out tags with snowflakes on. All I've done there is I've just backed them with some of the pattern papers, used some of the sentiments and tied those together with a bit of ribbon. Here is another tag that I've made, and you will notice as well that I have actually inked the edges of all of my pieces, which is something that you might like to do. This is just a little tag. There's my effort at a Christmas card here. I told you I don't make cards. This was just some of the pattern paper out of the paper pad, and I've added just some of the cut aparts there and inked around the edges. And then here we have another little money envelope that I've just decorated up. If you've had the same kit as me, you've got some little charms, which, you know, these are so easy to come by. They're so cheap. Just stick them onto a paper clip. You've got a really pretty little closure there. That's just a bit of added interest. If you are making these for friends, for Christmas, for birthdays, for any occasion, these are really cute little things to make. And I will show you how I've made this little charm as well. It's dead easy. I've got 2 paper clips. I have cut a strip of pattern paper, which I have then rolled around my paper clips, which I attached together. And then I've attached, well, actually I did it first. The paper was the last thing to go on. And I haven't glued it down very well either, because I used double-sided tape, which I don't usually do. And I've got my little charm there on the end. And that just makes a really nice little dangly charm, dead easy, that you can just add to your books wherever you want to. So we can actually get on and start decorating and doing things. Now, this cover I did in quite a lot of layers, and if you have a look in the tutorial, there's actually a couple of photographs in there that show you how I layered up my front cover. So what I'm going to do first is find my papers, which I put somewhere safe, which means they'll never be found again. Oh, here they are. And I'm going to just lay down the base of the front of my book. So, Stamperia papers are gorgeous. There's no two ways about it. This particular little set of papers comes with all of these lovely sort of like project lifestyle cards, which are double-sided, which I do think is very cute. This is the Christmas tree that I've used on the front of my book here. Once again, there's sort of these little cut aparts, the round ones, which I've used on my tags. These two I have cut out, fussy cut both of them, and you'll see that these are the bits that I've layered up here. And that little bit of tag I cut out and added there. This is what I used on the front of my accordion book. That's the inside cover. These are the tags that I mentioned that I turned into this little tag book here. And you'll have a binder clip in your kit if you've got one of those. This, I absolutely adored this page, but if you have a look, that's exactly what I've used here on the inside of my book. And I've cut out some extra bits just to pop on the top there, just to make a little bit of added interest. This piece here we'll use, that goes along the front of the book there with some lace. And then at the back we've just got some plain patterned papers. So I'm going to do exactly the same because I really don't want to think too hard about this. So this green paper here is what I used for the base of my front cover. Now I know that my book is 7 inches square. How much space you leave around the edge of your matting is entirely up to you. I tend to leave about 1/8 of an inch, which means that when I'm cutting out, I am going to cut each piece 1/4 of an inch smaller. So where I've got my book, which is 7 inches square, I'm actually going to cut my paper at 6 3/4 by 6 3/4 inches square. So that's what I'm going to do first of all. Now, I'm just trying to think where I have put my ink for safekeeping. 2 seconds. Probably exactly where it should be, which is why I can't find it. Yep, it is exactly where it's supposed to be. Right, so I'm going to get my book and I'm going to look at the front of it. So I've got the pocket behind, there's the front of my book, and I'm just going to check that for size. Spot on. So what I'm going to do is just ink the edges now. Obviously inking edges is entirely optional, but I like it, especially on these papers, because it gives you that kind of oldie worldy aged look to it. Which for this particular book is exactly the look that we want. Okay, and I still use glue to stick my bits on. I know if you want to, obviously, you know, double-sided tape is fine at this point, but I just like glue. What can I say? Make sure I'm attaching it in the right place. Yeah. So that's going to attach to the front of my book. Okay. I'm going to use the cake one to go up here, because I kind of like that, so I kind of wanted that to be seen. And I'm going to cut that the same size. Oh, I'm almost tempted to use you know what, let's do it differently. I'm going to use a gingerbread man side, and we're going to cut that once again at 6 3/4 inches square. Keep all of your rough cuts, because you never know when you might need them. Especially when we're doing all of these little tiny bits and pieces. Hi Teresa. Oh, hi, Linda. Hi, Alison. Ah, you've just reminded me. I don't know why this reminded me, but some people who bought the kit have probably had an extra large letter from me with nothing but 2 pieces of cream paper in it, because I can't remember if I put the cream paper in the kit or not. So if I did, you're lucky you got extra cream paper, but you would have just had it in an over large envelope. And I did put stickers on the front of it, but I know that Sue, it came off the sticker, the Scrap Lab sticker came off hers, so she wasn't quite sure who it was from or what it was for. So now you know, if you've had a second really bizarre envelope with just 2 pieces of paper in, that was from me, because I do like to keep you on your toes. Bye bye cakes, you're going to be gone forever. Right, so I'm just going to pop that on the inside of my book there. And what did I put on the very back? Because we'll do the easy bits first. Oh, holly. Okay. So let me just find that. This one, I think. Can't be. Must have been that one. Out of the front cover, there's 2 holly ones in there. So be careful, because this holly one is also on the back of that one. And we're going to need that bit. So just watch which piece of holly you're using. I'm using the one that's actually on the back of the front cover. Once again, I'm just going to cut those at 6 3/4 inches square. Right, have I got anybody? I know, Gwen, I really love that paper too. Anybody around Staffordshire on Sunday by any chance? Because Mel will skin me alive if I don't mention, if you're in the area, we actually have our annual Chase Handmade Christmas Fair at the Roman Way Hotel in Cannock on Sunday. It's the 10th of November, 10 till 4, free entry and free parking. And 40 completely diversified, handmade only crafts. Teresa, it's my absolute pleasure, but the papers make it, you know. I think if you get the right papers, the projects are just so easy. They just look amazing. That's why I love Graphic 45. But Stamperia is an absolute favourite as well. So yeah, if you're in the area, come and visit. I'll be there with the Scrap Lab store. And probably talking about various mini books. But if you want to have a look on Facebook, follow Chase Handmade, and you'll find information about all of our fairs on there. So this is my very back cover. I'm going to just pop that on there. Oops, not very straight. You'll be in a minute. Brilliant. Okay, so on mine, because I just absolutely, this is my favourite, this piece here. I'm going to show you how I put that together so that I kept all of my favourite bits. So let me find the paper, which is here. And the first thing that I did was I cut the width, which I think you know this by now, is 6 3/4 inches. Now I want to make sure that I've got my favourite bits in. My favourite bits are the houses. So I'm just going to have a look and see if I take this straight to 6 3/4 inches from there. Yeah, this is perfect. I'm just cutting that there, and I've got the tree that I'm just chopping off a little bit. Okay. So what I'm going to do to make sure that my pocket gets the best of all of the different papers to make it look like one sort of flow, I'm going to measure the height of that. I should know it, but I've completely forgotten it. Okay, 3 inches. So I'm going to cut this. I'm just going to see where, if I cut that at 3 inches, 2 3/4 inches, that's going to just chop off the top of my house. Well, I don't want that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to cut it at the length, the height that I want it, which is about there. And then I'm going to work out where 2 3/4 inches is, or even just slightly over. Say, let's go for 2 7/8 of an inch. So if I cut that there, I have now got a piece that should fit perfectly on that bottom pocket, which it does. So I'm just going to ink the edges of that. This was really hard because I really like the back of this paper as well. This is the trouble with these Stamperia papers. They are absolutely gorgeous, and it's really difficult choosing which side you want to use. But I can't wait to see which of the papers people use, because if you're not interested in doing a Christmas one, oh, fireworks. It's going to be so fascinating to see what you all make with it. Right. Okay, so that's in. So I want to use this top bit of paper here. So I'm going to just work out how much of that I need. I can see that the space between my hinge and the top of my next pocket is 2.5 inches. But I want to be able to tuck this inside. So I'm going to cut it at, let's see, 3 inches. Yeah, I'm going to cut that at 3 inches. And I'm just going to ink around the edges. I don't need to ink around this very bottom bit because you know they're going to see it. It's going inside the pocket. Now what I do to get a really good sort of professional type finish is I always cut my pieces of paper for my pockets a little bit too long, so that I'm actually feeding my pattern paper into the pocket before I glue it down, which gives it a really nice finished edge. Okay, so that's there, that's what I wanted, which leaves me this piece here, which should fit, I'm hoping, just perfectly in there. So I'm going to ink my edge. I only need to do it on 3 sides, remember. And as you can tell, it's now 8:25. This is a really, really quick project, which means that if you are making it for Christmas gifts for people, or for birthday gifts, or just gifts generally, it is absolutely perfect, because it's never going to take you more than an evening, even if you're a ditherer like me. Okay, I'll just so that is the base of our book done. We're going to work on the front cover in a moment, but we've covered the inside of it and we've covered the back of it as well. Okay, so now I want to work on the front cover. This is lots and lots of layers, and people often ask me how I layer stuff up, and the truth of the matter is I don't know, I just kind of do it. So in the back of the tutorial you'll see a little bit more about how I layered it up and what papers I used. So if you can see here, I've got my green papers, but I've used these tree papers just to layer up a little bit, and I've got my strip of baubles across there. So if we find those now, here's my Christmas tree papers, and I'm just going to find those bauble papers. Here we go. So I might as well just cut those baubles now. I'm going to cut just to the bottom of where that red line is there. I'm just going to set that aside for a moment because I don't need it at the minute. So that's our strip that goes along here. So we just need to cut that down to 6 3/4 inches. Or you can have it, actually looking at this, I've got it going straight across. So you can cut that to 7 inches. And then we're going to cut this layer out. I'm just going to measure quickly. I cut that at 6.5 by 6 inches. So 6.5 across. By 6 inches. Now don't lose that piece that we've just cut off there, because I'm going to layer that up as well. Now you can layer up with things like foam pads. My personal preference is trusty chipboard or grey board. I prefer this because it's just really solid, and also because it's a lot quicker, because foam pads are absolutely brilliant to give you a bit of bounce and a bit of support, but we're going to spend ages and ages and ages taking the backs off, so I'm not going to use that today. So I'm just going to ink the edges of this piece here. If anybody wants to know, just while I'm thinking about it, I'm inking my edges with good old Tim Holtz Distress ink in Vintage Photo. I don't stock those, but you can get them all over the place. And it's a really good one for aging. While I'm here, I might just as well ink the edges of this one. Right, those of you in the UK who have got Amazon, did you know that Downton Abbey is on Amazon Prime at the moment, free to watch? I've binged watched 2 series since yesterday, and I'm having serious withdrawal symptoms. Just to warn you. But if you have got access to Amazon, that is just a brilliant series to watch. If any of my American friends are in, yeah, that's exactly how we all live over here. I have a butler, his name's Mark. He does whatever I tell him to do.
Yes, madam.
Yes, madam. Position is open for ladies' maid. Right, so I am going to layer up this piece onto here. Now I've layered it up right to the very edge on my original, and I'm going to put it on like that, but I want to give it a little bit of height. So let me find the other scissors. My not so good cutting scissors, because this is quite thick, and I'm just going to cut out a piece of grey board. See, I know you all think my pieces look really pretty on the outside, but if you could see underneath what they're like, you'd see that they're... Oh, and I'm really sorry about the envelope, but I'm really glad now that you know. Right, so I'm now going to layer this up. This is going to go up towards the top. Say, let's pop it about there. Okay, so I'm starting already to get some dimension to my book because I've got bits that flap about, haven't we all? Right, this piece I'm going to just stick where I kind of forgot to cut that down, didn't I? I think I'll put it about there. Let's cut it down to 7 inches, 2 seconds. Actually looks like I've put that straight on. Just going to pop that about there. Now, if you're using my kit, you should have, I had this a moment ago, you should have your bits and pieces in a little bag with some ribbons and some lace, but you should also have some tags tied up with red ribbon, which of course I can't find. I did have them. Hold on. Hands up if you're a messy crafter. Well, goodness knows what I've done with those. Definitely had them. Right. Well, I'm just going to cut the snowflake off the end of that. I'm going to grab some of my green ribbon. Darling, will you just come and have a look on this half of my desk and see if you can find it's just loads of tags tied up with red ribbon, and I know it's under there somewhere. Sorry, darling.
What, this one here?
Oh, the one on the floor. That's it. Oh, you see? My butler is amazing. Right, so I've got my bits of tag, and I'm just going to stick little bits of ribbon on there. What's perturbed you, Wendy? Claire, everywhere in my room is a safe place, and I can never, ever, ever find anything. Even when I've just used it like a millisecond ago. You wouldn't believe it. I don't know how these things go missing, but they do. And it's absolutely deliberate to make me cross. They do it deliberately. I know this. Right. Okay, probably should have done this, put that on second, but it doesn't matter really. And I'm just going to glue those down. You're not going to see because they're going to be covered up by our Christmas tree amongst other things. Let's put that one on first. Can you still see this? Is it still in shot? Yes. Gwenny's amazing, I tell you. Hello, Pat. He just finds stuff that I didn't even know I'd lost, and he seems to know before I even lose things that I'm going to need him to find them. Okay. Right, I am going to want some of my lace now, I think. Okay, so I'm just going to measure. Right, I've got my piece of lace that is exactly the same length as this piece of pattern paper, but I want it to go quite a long way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually cut the top of it off, because I'm going to want to use that probably somewhere else in my project. And why cover it up when I can use it? Right, so what I've got here is this piece that goes along the bottom there. But what I want to do is I want to turn it over and I want to add this piece of lace to it. So I'm going to put some glue along the bottom there. And I'm going to add my piece of lace. Just make sure that's stuck. You turn it over and that's when you find out it's completely wonky, which this one is, of course. There we go. It's not as wonky as it was. Right, I'm going to put this on some grey board. Actually, I'm going to put the grey board all the way along, so we'll just... Like I said, if you haven't got grey board, foam pads is absolutely the perfect thing to use. I'll just put some glue on there. Where did you find them, Claire? Under your desk? Right, let's pop that on there. Glue that down. There we go. I'm happy with that. I'm going to want a little bit of lace to go there, I think. Just chop that off about there. I'm just going to add that down there. Right, now for the rest of my cover, I'm going to need to fussy cut this Christmas tree. I'm going to need one of the circles out of the pattern papers and 2 lots of this foliage here. Now I don't know really whether to do that right now. Probably won't, because it's just going to bore you all stupid watching me fussy cut, but I'll obviously put up pictures of that afterwards, and I've just layered them up, as you can see here, on foam pads or the chipboard. This piece layered up on a couple of pieces of chipboard. I've used a hot glue gun to attach my holly berries, which I've just slipped underneath this round piece here, and then I've just found some holly leaves somewhere in the book of papers, and I've just cut those out. So as you can see, that's layered. I found the little bits like you know, where it says Christmas greetings here, I've just cut out and just added bits as I've gone along. So that is really as simple as the front gets. It's not difficult at all. It's just, you know, some fussy cutting. So I'm going to leave that for now, because I'll do that fussy cutting separately, because it's just going to bore you stupid. So now we've actually got the book decorated, what I want to do is have a look at what we're going to put inside. So I think what we'll do is we'll start off making this little charm here. So if you've got the same kit as me, if you're using one of my Christmas kits, you'll see that what you've got a binder ring, you have got a big paper clip, and you've got 3 little ones and a couple of charms. So just my little charm, I'm literally just going to, I'm sure Mel would do this far more elegantly. I'm just going to slip that on, and then I've got a little charm on my paper clip which I'll attach to something later on. Then I am going to attach this Santa head to the paper clip, and then I'm going to attach another paper clip to that paper clip. Okay, so I've got this. I am then going to attach to the end of the large paper clip. So that is going to be what dangles. What I want to do now is just cover these over, so it's... Are you all right? You're sighing.
Am I?
Yes. Are you sighing at me?
No.
Why not? We're going to cover these over, and it's dead simple. All you need to do is get some of your bits of paper that you've got left over. I can't think how wide this is, and I've lost my ruler. Now I'm sighing. I'll just measure it down here. Right, it's approximately 1 inch, those little paper clips. So I'm just going to take some of my offcuts that we had earlier, because, you know, I said keep everything, and I'm just going to cut those at just under 1 inch, so probably 7/8 of an inch, and I'm just going to see if that will fit there, which it does. Now I've got 2 sides to this paper, obviously, and I'm going to cut it 2 pieces at 2 inches, because actually we really need very, very little. Now I'm going to use some double-sided tape if I can find it, because it's just far quicker than using glue in this case. Oh, I found my ruler. No, I'm not, because I don't know where my double-sided tape is. Whatever, I'm going to use some glue. And I'm just going to put some glue all over the back of that piece of paper, and I am going to roll it around. I hate getting gluey fingers. For somebody who paper crafts, can't bear glue on my fingers. It's like an out and out phobia. Just can't. Ugh. You don't know what I'm going through here in the name of my art. Let's just trim that off a bit. Okay, it just gives a little bit of added interest to you know, an otherwise boring paper clip. And we're going to do the same with this one. I'm just going to put some glue. Don't need that bit on the end, I don't think. I'm just going to... Oh. God, I am suffering for my art tonight. I'm just going to glue that round. And just hold that a moment while it sticks. You could do this with ribbon, you could use paper, all sorts of things. Okay, so that's our little clip, which we can just clip onto the side of the book. So I'm just going to pop mine here. So we've just got a little bit of added interest. Right, what should we make next? This little book here, like I've said, this is just cutting out shapes from the pattern papers. And what I've got, I've attached one of these little tiny rings and put a little bit of ribbon on it. I'm not going to do that now because you don't want to watch me do that. No, you don't. This little book here, like I said, what I've done is there's four of these little tags, these snowflake tags. And all I've done is I've used some of my offcuts when I finished making everything else. And I've just laid them down on top of, with my tag on top, and just cut round it so that I've got that backing paper on the snowflake, tied that together with some ribbon. I've cut out just a couple of the journaling cards just to go into my little book. And I've made some tags. Now I'm just going to do one of these really quickly just to give you an idea of how I've done it. So going back to my pattern papers, I've got this page here with all the circles on. And I've got a tag. So I'm just going to choose one. Might as well use the same one because I do like houses. So I'm going to need that, and I'm going to need one of these larger pieces of holly. Right, I'm just going to swap to my proper scissors, and I'm just going to cut this round. Okay, so that's going to go onto my tag, and just quickly, oh, I've got glue all over my fingers. Oh, I hate it. I'm just going to cut out this bit of holly. Right, just going to ink the edges of my tag. Now if you're going to do it properly, you should do both sides. And I'm going to ink the edges of the picture that I've chosen. I'm not going to ink the holly because who's got time for that? Right, a little bit of glue. Hello Rizwana, hello Rekha. Oh, and Terry's here. Oh, hello Terry, how are you? Probably got far nicer weather than we have, I expect. See you soon, Anne. Thank you for joining us this far. And yeah, obviously this class will be in the group. I'll save it so that you can just go back and use it at your leisure. Right, so I am going to put this little piece of holly on. Now this is where foam pads are brilliant, because they're far easier than these daft little tiny pieces of chipboard. Ooh. I'm just going to pop that onto there. And there's just a little easy, quick and easy Christmas tag. So in my kit, I've made 2 of those because you've got to have cake, haven't you? Sadie in. Sadie likes cake. We've been 0 degrees Celsius today, Terry. What's that in Fahrenheit, Mark? We did 32. Work this out the other day. 32 degrees today. So you've had 85. I think it was quite a bit warmer than you. Hi, Fiona. Right, okay, so we've got a couple of those to do. Like I explained as well, I've just decorated up these, I should have put some on the back of that really, these little, where are they? Money envelopes. You can get these in so many places. If you don't want to make your own envelopes, you can pick these up in Poundland shops. You can pick them up in just stationery shops, and they're cheap as chips. Actually, I've made a few books out of these. We should do that next year. Yeah, Terry, I bought an absolutely huge box of them. However, what I've done in the tutorial is I have written the size of them so that if you want to cut your own, you can do that. Make it nice and easy. So we don't need to decorate those up because that's your opportunity to do something really cute for yourself. But I will just finally just go through this little accordion mini book that I made. So what you need to have for this is a piece of A4 cream paper. I don't know where my cream paper is, so just for ease of use at the moment, I'm just going to use a piece of white. Okay, so I've got just a piece of ordinary A4 paper, and I'm going to cut that. Now I've found my ruler. At 3 3/4 inches. So I've got the length of the A4 piece here, and I'm going to cut that at 3 3/4 inches, but I'm going to want 2 strips. Oh, I think I need to put a new blade in my trimmer. Okay, so I've got 2 pieces like this. Then what I want to do is I want to score them. Now I'm going to be really careful with this because this is just printer paper that I'm using just to show you how to do it. The finished article will obviously be using the proper stuff. And we are going to score on the long side at the top at 2 3/4 inches. Right, Mark, what's 2 3/4 plus 2 3/4? 5.5. Right, and we're going to score at 5.5. Then what's the next one? 5.5, 6.5, 7.5. 8 1/4. Does that sound about right?
What you adding to it?
I don't know. 2 I've forgotten already. I've written this down somewhere. 2 3/4.
And another 2 3/4.
Yeah. It's 8 1/4. And then the next one will be 11.
11.
Right. Okay. Good.
Terry's just asked what weight of paper you use.
Well, this is just for the board for my albums tends to be 4-sheet card, which is around the 240 GSM mark. This is just cheap printer paper, but I wouldn't have used this in the book anyway. I'm just doing it just to show you how I've made the accordion folder. But the paper that I've got in the kit is quite thick. It's just thick, good quality paper. So what did we decide, Mark? 2 3/4, 5.5.
Yeah. 8 1/4.
8 1/4 and 11. Okay. And that what I want you to do is just fold this up like a concertina. I'm doing this really badly. This isn't going to be the finished article. It's just so I can show you roughly what to do, and then just chop that end bit off. And I want you to do that the same on both pieces. Okay. All right, so we've got 2 concertina pieces here. I want you to just pop some glue and join that up with another piece up to the score line. Oh, this isn't working on cheap paper. You get the idea anyway. It's not rocket science. Okay, so we've got quite a long little concertina book there. Then what we're going to do is we're going to cut out the covers, which are just the craft card that I've used here, which is whatever size that was, which I can't remember again. So 2 3/4 by 4 inches. So you're going to cut out 2 pieces of card to be covers on either end, and then just decorate those up. And that's how you make the little accordion mini book, which goes into your Terry. Mark, will you remind me? I'm pretty certain that I have got a conversion sheet, chart somewhere for UK and American weights, measures, sizes, because when I say A4, I'm talking about the British A4, which is actually slightly different to the American A4. I can't remember, I think it's slightly longer, but I'm pretty certain that I have a conversion chart somewhere, which I will put in the group, which might be helpful. Tilly, I'm done, my darling, pretty much, so that's good timing. So thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait to see what people do. Rizwana, I can't do maths at the best of times, so I've had a really good workout this evening. As far as I'm concerned now, other than fussy cutting, that's it as far as this class is concerned. I'll just show you again. I've got a little card that I made here out of bits of paper that was left over, just layering things up. I've got my little envelope, but the thing about the Loaded Pocket is that you can put whatever you like in it. You're sending it to a friend, put some Haribos in it. If you're sending it to me, put some Haribos in it. There's so many things that you can add in. If you're stuck for ideas, have a look on Pinterest. Pinterest is such a great place to look for some inspiration. But that, as like I said, as far as I'm concerned, is it for tonight. As far as the class goes, I'll do that fussy cutting. I will put a thread up in the group where people can say if they would like to have my version of this book. I will send you the one that I've made tonight, the one that I've made tonight properly, not the one that I've made with printer paper. I'll put that conversion chart up, and I think that's about it. Just to remind you about the next class, which will be next Wednesday, the 13th of November. I will post up in the next 24 hours a resource list, which is quite comprehensive, because we need things like, if you're going to do your shaker pocket, you need different thicknesses of chipboard, etc, etc. Or I will tell you ways that you can get around that if you want to do it and you don't have any chipboard. We will find a way. So I hope you've enjoyed the class tonight. If there's anything that you're not sure about, send me a message, write something in the group. Please don't forget to show me what you make, because it makes me so happy. And if anybody's got any questions, like I said, just let me know. So I will see you all really soon, and thank you very much indeed for joining me tonight. So take care, everybody, and I'll see you soon. Oh.